So I've personally relied on my Sony a7S III and ZVE1 for all my low light capability needs. But what if my Sony a7C Mark II is actually good enough to do 12,800 ISO? We're gonna run a little experiment with the a7C Mark II and the 50-150 f2 because it'll allow more light into it, but mainly because I wanna see how well it can perform in low light, mainly to do the 3200, which is that ISO second base for the a7C Mark II, bring it to 6400 and then 12,800. And mainly since I've been juggling my a7S III ZVE1 when I travel, I wanna see if the a7C Mark II and a7 IV that I have, because sometimes I want to have two hybrid setups whenever I'm on the go, and I want to see if I can get by with that low light capability. And this also stems because somebody was asking me how good the a7C Mark II could be at 12,800, if it was usable or not, and I said, might as well go ahead and try it. I'm planning to use mainly some natural light, so I'm gonna try to bring up this so that we can have the window light as much as possible, because today is a rainy, overcast day. So the goal is going to be to try to do whatever light available, take out the light that I'm using, and see what happens. Because to be honest, I'm going to do real life kind of scenarios where if I'm trying to shoot something at 12,800 ISO, it's not going to be pitch black. Nobody's going to shoot that way. You're going to have some, light and everything to make sure that the subject is lit up, and that's going to be the goal, so that nobody goes, oh, well, it's, I need it to be actually low light in the sense of like no light at all. Not really realistic. You're always going to try to find some light source anyway. So let's turn off this light. So right now this is with my Sony a7S III. I do have an ND filter to kind of vary it or whatever, so I don't have an ND filter for my 50-150 because my goal is to try to get it in camera as much as possible, so I might not always shoot at f2. But we're going to use this light right here to kind of sit more closer to it, so I have a background light, this light right there to kind of hit my face, see how it looks. So we're gonna first keep it at the native ISO of 800 because that's the base ISO of the Sony a7C Mark II and a7 IV, as well as the 3200 because that's the dual native ISO. The main aspect of all this is to really see how the 6400 and the 12,800 ISO will be, because my Sony a7S III has that 12,800, which is something that would be usable, hopefully, that I want to see how it'll work out for the future to know if I can leave that camera behind. So we're gonna see these results and you can see for yourself how it's looking. This is with the Sony a7S III at 5.6 aperture, 12,800 ISO, the same that it was on my, a7C Mark II. So you can see a little bit of a comparison side to side. Next test will be using the nice window light to sit over here, as well with the lights that were over there to try to kind of compensate, a little bit of a fill light. But that way we have a little bit of that window light. It is, like I said, overcast and rainy, so it should give us more limited light. For this section, I wanted to keep the 800 ISO still, even though it was not bright enough, shooting it even at f2, just to showcase what it would look like with the limited light, so you get an idea of the quality as well. And then slowly but surely incrementing it into the 3200, 6400, and 12,800 ISO to see how much I could be able to use it, how it could color grade and everything, for you guys to see a little bit of an example with the window light. Now I'm going to use the light over there just to kind of light up the scene and see how it goes. There's obviously some diffusion that I added for it just because that's what I would normally do for low light capabilities to make sure that the lighting is a little bit softer, but that way you can still get an idea of if it's usable or not. I'm setting up my light at 10% just to kind of replicate a little bit better, you know, light or something like that. I'm gonna just sit down right here where I would do my normal talking head setup and see how it looks, because I'm gonna be using the 50-150 over there at 50 millimeters, and I'm gonna just adjust the aperture to make sense of it. But that way we can kind of see how it looks and see if it's usable at 12,800, because I'm only gonna do this one at 12,800. This is how I would essentially have my talking head set up. It's farther away because 50 is too tight. I usually would have it over here, but that way you can see a little bit of how the low light capabilities look, if it's something that's usable, something that might not be. But I'm gonna do a couple more just talking kind of stuff with just this camera now, just to showcase me using it more real life style and seeing how the footage will look throughout. And if you can tell how it looks good or bad or not, if it's usable, you'll be able to see it before I go review it and give you my final thoughts on that. So basically right now I'm shooting f5 12,800, and yeah, how is it looking for you? This is more kind of like how it would set up for myself if I'm using my A7S3 or ZV-E1 that I still have. Did plan to get rid of it, I just haven't done it so yet. Did a video about that. This is one of the reasons why it also got inspired, is to know if my A7C Mark II can just handle the low light for when I'm traveling. When I travel, I try to bring mostly a hybrid setup, and I want to have something that I can use for daytime, low light, and everything. It's more my imperfections and perfections kind of thought process of it, because I want everything to look as perfect as possible, but understanding that imperfections will come this way. So as much as I know maybe the A7C Mark II and my A7 IV are not going to be for low light per se, it is nice to see if I can get by and it's usable and I'm okay with it, because my A7S3 and ZV-E1 obviously will have a cleaner image supposedly at 12,800. I have been using my Osmo 3 for more on the vlog setup, things on the go. Sometimes with low light for that, it's not gonna be the most ideal. So if I can have my 20-40 Tamron lens with my A7C Mark II to be my little vlog setup whenever it gets too much of low light, and then have my A7 IV for more the photo and some video, kind of would be something nice to be able to have, and as long as it's usable with shooting at 12,800. That's why I kind of just want to put this to the test and use it as I normally would as I talk to you through the camera, because obviously I know the video can be shorter or anything like that, but going through the thought process as to why, I think can help us understand better as to if we'll need it or not. And that's one of the things that I try to do with my channel, so hopefully it helps you out. I'm gonna be incrementing from 800 ISO, which I currently have, all the way to 12,800 that I exposed for, so you can see how much light it goes up and how the image is clearing up essentially. So we're at 800, we're going slowly now to the 3200, so you can start seeing it get nice and brighter. There we go, nice at 3200. Then from there, you know, that's the dual native ISO right there, but it's not going to be properly exposed, so we're going to go up to the 6400. This is a 6400. This is how it's looking and everything. No, maybe a little bit better and everything like that, but let's go to the 12,800, see if it's usable. So for myself, I know that I use the haze, so somebody probably might comment on that, you know, but I use it for the roll off, so that if you know that you're going to be inside, maybe the haze will help you out to have a better roll off, so it's not as grainy or as noisy. It exposes it better or not. It really will be up to your standards. There's no right answer in this one. Everybody has a different, you know, kind of opinion of what's going to be usable and what's not going to be usable. For me, probably should be fine. I'm not sure. I'll be reviewing in a bit or whatever, but at the end of the day, you just have to realize what it is. If you're outdoors, there's a different story right there, because obviously you won't have a little bit of haze, but maybe you have fog, or maybe the lighting just makes sense, and 12,800 with the A7C Mark II or A7 IV makes sense, but that we get a little bit of an example. But yeah, I'm gonna go review the footage now just to kind of give you my final thoughts in a bit, but I wanna see how well usable it'll be. Color grade a couple of them just to kind of get an idea, because for me, I kind of will be able to see relatively fast if it's something that I would be using or not, since I'm shooting the way that I would here at home or even on the go, because I know how the light will be, what I need to see and everything in camera anyway. So yeah, you got to see this before me, but I gotta get that review done. So with the magic of YouTube, you'll see me sitting down here in about 3, 2, 1. I'm done reviewing the footage when it comes down to seeing how the low light capabilities will be of the A7C Mark II, kind of incrementing it from 800, 3200, 6400, but mainly the 12,800 ISO. Like my Sony a7S III that I'm filming with, I'm currently shooting at 12,800 ISO because I wanting, you know, depending on the light or whatever, I sometimes use my variable ND filter. It just makes sense because I can overexpose it, bring it down to what I need to have that dynamic range that I want for the outside to inside kind of ratio as much as possible. And that was the main thought with this camera. I just wanted to know if it was usable, is it great, is it not, if it's just trash, or can I get by if I'm traveling and I cannot bring my a7S III because maybe it's not needed, I need it condensed down. I'm bringing the Osmo 3, bringing the a7 IV or the a7C Mark II, or both because I need more hybrid style. And after reviewing it, to be honest, it's pretty great. I mean, it's not perfect, nothing that, yeah, I guess maybe in DaVinci Resolve, some people can do a little bit of that, you know, denoiser or something, but even with just reviewing it without adding that, it looked very well usable, especially in the parts where it matters. The focal point of the subject. For me, if you're really having to pixel peep into the darkest corners of a video because you want to see how much grain there is because was that camera low light or not, you're kind of defeating the purpose of what it really matters. You know, the storyline is what's gonna matter, the subject being properly lit or as well lit as possible. Because I did do, in a sense, on purpose, some not so great lit sections so that if I was, for example, in front of like the lights of like the stove or whatever, is not going to be the best lighting because in reality there's not really much good lighting going on, so it's not going to be nice to see that footage. But when you kind of have a little bit of the environmentals properly lit to a certain degree where it makes sense, it's really fine. It's usable. There's some noise, of course, but it's not the end of the world noise. It's aesthetically pleasing kind of noise in a sense, kind of like what people even add to their overlay of footage already themselves. So to me personally, I think the usability of the ISO range on the a7C Mark II and the, you know, a7 IV that I have versus the a7S III and ZVE1 tends to be more usable. Because I'm not saying that the a7S III or ZVE1 can't be usable with like the 6400 or whatever, but because I guess my assumption is that since it oversamples from 7.2K down to 4K, it becomes a little bit sharper even with low light and the noise. So you have more access to properly expose with more ISO range than you would with the a7S III or ZVE1 for that matter, since it's more true 4K. So at least for me, that's what I kind of noticed it. So if I want to expose something at 800, 3200, 6400, or 12,800 with these cameras, I'm able to do so and feel reliable that it'll be good. You know, it'll be usable, so I'm not too worried about it. There's pros and cons to everything because at the end of the day, if I'm having to shoot now APS-C mode with a 4K 60, probably not gonna be the most ideal since the low light of that might not be as nice compared to just shooting the full sensor. But that's my thoughts and my understanding and my experience of today's video. Hopefully it'll help you out to decide if you're fine to give up, you know, the dream, if you will, of the a7S III or ZVE1 and maybe go for the a7C Mark II, maybe the a7 IV, and I guess now the FX2 since they all kind of have the same sensor and everything, and you can make it work to your needs. But I'm curious to know, what did you think about the differences of ISO? Is the noise too much? Is it too fine? Is it, you know, usable? Can you, in post make it better? I would love to know your thoughts on today's video. So go ahead, start typing away, give me that comments, let's get discussing and see what happens. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.